Hello, and welcome to this live video. I'm super excited as always to have you guys tuning in. So can't wait to see who is able to join me today. So you guys know the drill. Please do make sure that you are dropping any comments and definitely any questions that you have. I'm really pumped and excited to jump back on and do a live for you guys. And today different thing. So this is all new to me. I'm doing a live for you guys directly from my computer for all sorts of weird reasons. But very excited to jump on, and I feel like I've been away forever. So excited to see who can join me today. And today it's going to be a really empowering topic that I really want to just co-create the conversation with you because for a multitude of different reasons. But basically, I'm going to be discussing with you guys today the importance of integrating all aspects of our lives. And when we look at our personal development, I want to particularly focus on two particular areas of and pathways of our personal development. One being the masculine pathway, which I'm going to explain and go deeper with you guys soon, and the other being the feminine pathway to our personal development. So this message today is for all of us who want to grow to our ultimate potential, who want to actualize everything we've got to be able to create that meaning in our lives, live on purpose, create real fulfillment in all areas of our lives. This is going to be a really empowering one. And of course, I'm going to share with you guys my personal journey with it, and in the hope that me sharing that can actually inspire you to look at your own life, to look at your own way that you engage your own personal development, and see if some of this stuff that I'm going to share with you guys today is helpful in expanding and making sure that you are living on purpose and getting out of your own way and taking those meaningful actions towards creating the life that you're most inspired by, rather than sitting on the sidelines of life feeling confused and lost and directionless, and maybe you're feeling like you're not moving forward to anything significant, and maybe you're just falling into destructive or distracting kind of patterns. This message, I hope, inspires you. So I'm just trying to also work out how I can see any comments that you guys drop. So I don't know, we'll see how it all pans out today. But today's message, I want to talk to you guys about integrating both the masculine and the feminine pathways to actualizing your limitless potential. So let's break it down firstly as to what's the masculine pathway to personal development, and what's the feminine pathway to personal development, and then basically like why we want to have a focus on both. So the masculine pathway for personal development is more of that striving to accomplish a goal, right? It's looking to push for results. It's kind of that train on the tracks, burn the boats, get clear on what you want, go after it despite all the odds, and all of that sort of great stuff that we absolutely need in terms of becoming our most whole, co-creative individuals in the world, creating the life that we actually want and moving away from the things that we don't want. It's very focused, it's very directed, it's very intellectualizing of our own selves, of ideas and concepts, and applying them to our lives. It's very directed. It tends to be quite future focused, working with a plan, right? So we absolutely need that side of our personal development. Hands down, we can't actualize our ultimate potential without it, right? Now let's take a look at the feminine pathway to our personal development. And basically the feminine side of our personal development is something that personally I've added into the mix of my personal development in more recent times. And I didn't even know like how powerful and how different, what gifts it brought that were different to the more masculine approach of, accomplishing the goals, right? And basically the feminine approach, or the feminine pathway towards actualizing our potential, is much more connected internally with emotions, and it's not afraid of emotions, it's not running away from emotions, it's not trying to escape and avoid emotions. It's much more connected to the wisdom and the feedback of the internal world, or our intuition, or our utilizing our and honoring our emotions as feedback to guide us in the flow of our creativity and in the flow of life, not as just purely an individual, which tends to be more of the masculine approach, but it's more about more having a relationship-centered focus. And that starts, the healthier and healthier we become with our feminine pathway towards our personal development. It basically starts from within and our connection with self, and it circulates outward into our family relationships, our friendship circles, our community, the world at large, nature at large, and ultimately the universe and beyond. Okay, and so some of the practices down the feminine pathway towards our personal development can get the label of woo-woo, or, you know, kind of out there, or esoteric, and kind of like, oh, I don't know about that stuff, right? Is it scientific? Can we see it? Can we prove it? You know, and that I really want to, I've personally got beyond that in a lot of ways. I'm still on the journey, but that I want to remove that block for all of us, you know, because there's so much value in the uncertainty and the divinity, you know, of both the masculine and the feminine pathways, beyond what we know of it in more of a general sense, and more of a, you know, the consensus of our personal development in those realms. We want to get beyond that. And basically what's happened in my own personal world is a lot of my personal development has been more of the masculine approach, and that's basically how I entered, and the people that I learnt from was much more hyper-focused on the masculine approach to our personal development. And it's come into my personal development a bit more slowly, the feminine approach. And I actually came across more of the feminine approach by involving myself in different women's circles and workshops. And look, for those of you who know me well enough at this point, and maybe you don't, and you weren't aware of this, but I really don't like any sort of separation, segregation. And I can see the absolute value of having men's groups and having women's groups, and the power and the community and the camaraderie and the understanding that we can get to when we separate into these isolated groups of men and women, right? But for me personally, I see that just as a mere stepping stone to get well beyond that level of our development, and to get beyond the labels of men and women, or masculine, feminine, and combine them and integrate them into more of a holistic approach, which doesn't just see the separate labels of men and women, but actually connects with the humanness. Now that is a large step forward. And what I want to talk to you guys about now, which I hope you can apply to your life in the moment, is looking at how every single suffering and challenge that we experience in our lives is born by actually being in an extreme of one side of a continuum or a polarity. Okay, what do I mean by that? We can look at it from the term of masculine or feminine, right? Or I just spend time with men, or I just spend time with women, or our labels and our relationships with those, our perception of those extremes on a continuum or a polarity, right? And basically that's what creates the suffering. And when we get to a place of seeing, experiencing, valuing both sides of the polarity, you know, and so we're not just in this one-sided extremism. When we can see the value, feel the value, experience the value, integrate the value, we come together and we take a massive leap forward in towards the direction of humanness. And that massive leap forward is one that progresses us towards actualizing the next level of our potential. Now, let's break it down to our everyday challenges. Now, just yesterday in the Limitless Potential Academy, we had a group session, and one of the amazing individuals in that group was expressing a challenge that they were having getting into a new position or a new job. And they didn't yet have, the skill set for this position. And they were really worried about it before starting the job, right? They just had this massive imposter syndrome. They just felt like, oh my God, like, I don't know how to do what they do, and they're going to find me out, and they're going to really judge me, or they're going to I might lose my job, right? And all these habituated thinking patterns were going on for this individual as they were taking a new position in their job. So what they were basically doing was projecting onto other people, in this scenario, their new work colleagues, their new boss, and new clients. They were projecting a negative perception was going to come back on them, basically. All right, so they were kind of in this pessimistic kind of mindset or habituated thinking pattern. And basically, the experience that this person actually had was reflecting back to them like, hey, it's okay, you don't need to know this stuff, because that we're all here to learn. You're just beginning. How could we expect you to know already, right? And so this particular person, and a lot of us, I feel, can relate. We all have these habituated thinking patterns, these ways of projecting onto the world, and we can do that in multiple different contexts, and it could be costing us quite a lot, right? So we have an imbalance in a continuum or on a polarity. So basically the imbalance in this particular scenario was everywhere I go, I project that people are going to perceive me poorly, they're going to judge me. So it's more of this pessimistic approach to new experiences. So what we need to do is, and for this particular person, and try this on for size, if you tend to be pessimistic in multiple different contexts in your life, what we need to do is recognize that that's just one side of a polarity. What's on the opposite side is optimism, right? So it's the opposite of pessimism is going to be optimism. So if somebody was really on the extreme of the optimistic side, basically they'd come into the same scenario and they'd probably project, these people are going to love me, they're going to see how great I can be at this job, and all the positives and the things that they would be most optimistic to project, right? And so basically, if you find yourself on the extreme and it's creating suffering, challenge, and negativity, and for this particular example, this person was having this experience in different group dynamics, right? Not just entering a new job, but in different group dynamics, it was coming up that they were worried about feeling judged, and they were going for basically the worst case scenario that could happen, and they were blind to the best case scenario. They were blind to the optimistic perspective that was available. And so in order to exit out of that habituated thinking pattern for this person, basically they need to identify, okay, this is the pattern. I can see how I play this out and I project this out into multiple different contexts, and then identifying, well, what's the opposite to pessimism? Okay, optimism. All right, now what I need to do is start building the awareness and catching myself when I start entering into the pessimistic habituated thinking pattern. And instead, I just need to create that little gap, that little space of time for me to select and choose and change that over to what would be the optimistic approach here. And it's going to feel uncomfortable. What's the best case?